Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the Referral Mastermind call. This is where we have an open session. We talk about anything that you would like to talk about. Our hope is to talk about referrals, how to get more repeating referrals from your past clients, your friends, your family, your sphere of influence. But we also open up for open session issues that you would like us to address. And let's go ahead and get started.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Is just you and I on the call?
It is right now. It's been taking like 5 or 10 minutes for people to get in the last couple calls. So welcome to the call.
Good. Can I take 1 minute real quick to tell you something?
Betcha, absolutely.
Paul Rogers, 59, grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, was a fireman, EMT for 17 years, had my real estate broker's license. I only worked with 2 or 3 regular buyers in that 17 years. I did residential investing, buy, fix, and sell, buy, fix, and hold. I ended up as a guest speaker on the Oprah show with Robert Kiyosaki, building wealth through business and real estate. He's been my mentor for 22 years. Met a gal from the Oprah show. She lived in Sacramento, California, moved out here 14 years ago, was with her. And I just moved my license EXP a year and a half ago. I have not done any recruiting yet. My 35-year-old son is where I'm going with the story, is sitting next to me. He's from St. Louis. He's had 3 IT jobs in the last 12 years, keeps getting laid off. I've always said, get your real estate license, use it part-time. We're sitting here now and he's contemplating at 35 about getting his license full-time and really just living on the skinny for the next year while he gets into real estate, knowing it's going to take 3 to 5 years to really get his feet underneath him, knowing that he needs to be recruiting, because that's where the financial freedom is. And then we got your email about this class today. So we're sitting here in Sacramento, California, watching you, and we appreciate everything that you're doing for everybody.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. That was very.
What advice would you give a 35-year-old kid looking to get into real estate?
That's awesome. You did a phenomenal job, by the way, of giving me your background. I think that's one of the best, quickest backgrounds, elevator speeches I've ever heard. You really nailed that one. Thank you for doing that. All right. So Paul's son, what's your name?
Brent.
Brent, how are you, Brent?
I'm good.
Cool. So we've got a couple people that just joined us. Tell us real fast your 60-second background. Do as well as Paul did earlier, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2005. I joined the Marine Corps. I exited the Marine Corps. I got an entry-level IT job through my brother-in-law, who was a software developer. I kind of excelled in the customer support arena, a couple company promotions and layoffs. And I'm in a repeating cycle of getting on at a decent company, working my way up, a couple of years there, a couple of promotions, a little bit of lifestyle creep with the raises, and then a layoff or a firing, and then it's a repeating cycle. And I'm 35. I got 2 kids. I got a wife at home, and I'm trying to decide if I want to get stuck in the same kind of career cycle trap that I've been pushing through. And real estate seems to be the place to be from everybody that I speak to that's successful.
Very good. Where are you located?
St. Louis, Missouri, but I'm currently visiting out here in Roseville with Paul.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your service to the country. I really appreciate that. And that's fantastic. Again, I hope you continue to maybe be in reserves and so forth and things like that. My father and mother met in the military, and so I have a high respect for that. Again, thank you so much. All right, so let's jump into, and let me just hit that. For anybody who is in the military, if you can go reserves for 20 years, if you go active and or active reserve, some combination, 20 years, you get an amazing pension and retirement. Just something to know about it for you or your kids or anybody you talk to who's in the military. I actually have a niece. I'm going on a little tangent, but I have a niece who was active for, I think, 12 years, and then she got married. Her husband didn't want her to be in it, so she stepped out. Now she's getting a divorce. And she's actually able to step back in and continue on through the cycle so she can actually get a retirement, because getting a retirement is very difficult in our world today, unless you work for government, and even the governments are starting to pull back on that. So it's pretty cool if you can pull that together with the military. All right, so let's get back into the topic at hand. And the question is, we've got a potentially new agent who's trying to figure out how to get some traction. Let me give you a couple other general concepts first. You mentioned you've been in the tech industry.
Yes.
And that there's this cycle, right? There's a cycle of they're hiring and then they're keeping you around and then they're letting you go. And I've talked to many people in the tech industry, and that seems to be very common. And in fact, it's happening in all industries, where there's no longer, again, what we were just talking about, this idea of work for somebody for 20, 30, 40 years and you get a retirement. It's not out there, or it's very rare. And so if you can establish that in another industry, which we were mentioning at the beginning, I think Paul mentioned these with EXP, and there's other companies out there that have some idea where you can create some type of retirement income. That's pretty cool. So that's kind of like a bonus or a cherry on top that has in that company. You can also do it with investments. I think Paul had mentioned that he's done that with real estate investments and creating passive income and so forth. Let's get back to the topic, and that is, how do you get started in real estate? What do you do to get a good quick start? I'll give you my opinion after being around for 3 decades and doing it myself, watching others do it. And then now I've talked to over 200 of the top agents in the country and what they've done as far as creating teams. And I've also talked to about 50 to 100 top solo agents and what they're doing. The number one thing that I can recommend, and why I'm doing this program and why I'm doing this mastermind, is build out your repeat and referral, your PCSOI. Even as a brand new agent, you got to go out there and put together your list. Now, you're going to have some overlap with your dad, but you've got your own sphere. You've got also the sphere of your spouse. You mentioned you're married. These are people you should be bringing together and put them in an actual list, formalize the list, and then create a campaign to go out and let them know that you're around and you're in marketing. Real estate is all about relationships and building relationships. I'll try to break that down a little clearer. You really can actually do 2 ways to run this business. One is what I call hunting, which is where you're going out every day looking for one deal, and you're going to go out there and you're going to kill it and you're going to drag it home and you're going to eat it. Okay, so that's the hunting concept. There's another concept called farming, which is basically you're going to create either a group of people, that's the PCSOI, or a target area, like say geographic farm, and you're going to go and market to those people and ask them to respond back to you and create some business that way, where it's a little more long-term. And the PCSOI in particular is more relationship-based, where you're in people's lives for the long haul, you're creating friendships and relationships, and ultimately they're going to refer you business when the need arises. Okay, I know that sound at first, when I first got into business, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go do the hunt thing because I can kill something today and get the business right away. And you can do that. You can sprinkle in those ideas. But the long-term players that do extremely well, they have the relationship-based business, the PCSOI built out. And so to give you a perspective, the top teams, these are people who their teams are selling 100, 200, 300, 500 homes a year. And I don't know what your average commission is in your market, but it's been inching up over the years. It used to be around 5, now it's probably 10 nationally. Some markets it's 20 or even 50. It just depends on what market you're in. And you can start to do the math based on where you are with those numbers. Well, these top teams, at least half of their business is coming from PCSOI. So you've got somewhere between 40 and 60% is coming from repeat and referral. If you look at the top solo agents, they're pulling somewhere between 70 and 90% of their business from PCSOI. And by the way, those people are closing typically up to 40, 60, 80, even 100 transactions a year. We just talked to a gal who did 162 as a solo in 1 year. So their core business is the PCSOI. So that's why I push this idea and the concept. And for somebody coming into the business new, and I talked to a lot of folks doing that, I recommend that you build that up first. That needs to be the foundation of your business. So you should take the first 30 days and get that thing set up, structured, and ready to go. And you'll be generating a flow of business into your practice. Let me give you another big concept that may help. It depends on how many people you know. And you know more people than you think, by the way. Excuse me. Studies show the average person knows 150 to 250 people that they could put into their database. They can build up their own PCSOI. By the way, PCSOI, past client and sphere of influence. All right, so that's just the way I throw the term out. Most people know 150 to 250 people when they do surveys. So you should have somewhere around that. right? Okay. But we're going to start on the low end and say you got 100 just to play this easy. And most people I talk to can at least pull together 100 names. And by the way, you can, right? You start with your family, your parents. Your dad's not going to be able to help you on this one, but you have your parents for most people. You've got your siblings, you've got your cousins, you've got your aunts and uncles. You go out. Then you've got your friend groups, right? So people that are close to you, the people who are acquaintances, people that are connected to you in another way. Maybe you're in a sport or activity. Then you got, like you said, you've got kids, you've got sporting events where you're meeting other parents, you've got PTA if you're involved in the school, you got all kinds of things where you're connected through your kids to other people. You also have your church, maybe, if you're into that. There's all these things where you're meeting people and connecting with them. And you start brainstorming through the list. This list is going to grow out. And it's going to be more substantial than you think. Also, don't forget your spouse's sphere. That's another really great network that you can connect into. The reason you're trying to do this is this. This is the bottom line. Let's say you got a group of 100 people. If you create a formalized list and you start a formalized program with those people, if you're doing a bad job at it, okay, you got it, but you're not doing great, you should expect about 5% of the list to repeat and refer every year. Okay, so if you got 100 people, that's 5 closings a year. And the beauty is it's not just 5 closings this year, it's 5 closings next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. That's why the top people put so much time into this to get it set up right. And then, by the way, it's much easier to maintain once you get it set up. It just becomes this machine. As long as you keep feeding it, it keeps kicking off transactions. It's the highest profit business you can get. It's the easiest business to get. They don't compete against you. They don't try to knock you down on commission. They're the most fun because they're our friends and family, right? They're very enjoyable to work with. All these dynamics are working to make this a fantastic customer to work with. Now, I mentioned that 5% of the list is going to work with you if you're not doing a very good job. If you get a decent program in place and you start to become consistent and you improve your marketing, you should easily be able to get up to 10% of the list. Now we're closing 10 transactions a year out of your 100-person list. That's getting very interesting in most markets. And then the top people that I know, okay, the top solo agents, typically they're hitting around 20% of their list, repeating and referring every single year. So if you have your list of 100, that's 20 closings every single year just out of this group. These people have their marketing dialed in, they've got their conversations dialed in, they're building up their relationships. They're very focused on this and they're getting great response. They typically, by the way, have a list of 200 to 300. That seems to be where they fall out. So you can imagine if you have a list of 300 and you're hitting 20%, that's 60 closings a year. If your average commission is 10% in your market, it's $600,000 a year or $50,000 a month. Those are kind of the dynamics you can start thinking about of why you want to invest time and effort into this endeavor of building out your PCSOI. What do you think about all that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's, we had a conversation earlier with another gentleman and similar, in a similar vein of thought, the lead generation is everything. And I'm slowly learning that the most successful people that I've been introduced to, you can see and you can hear in their dialogue that their main focus is building relationships, meeting new people, more importantly, staying in touch and following up with these people as time goes on, because it seems like that's where a lot of people maybe slide a little bit. They're focused on all the new feeding of the machine, but not much of the touching base with what they've already done.
So, Mike, let me jump in here.
Correct. Yeah.
Let me jump in, and Alex and Marilyn probably learned something from this. Guys, I've been in Sacramento for 14 years doing real estate. I do open houses every weekend because when I moved here from St. Louis 14 years ago, Marilyn and Alex, I didn't know anybody. And I do open houses every weekend. And my wife joined me about 10 years ago. We've done about 300 transactions, Mike. Where I've dropped the ball is I don't think I get but maybe 1 or 2 referrals a year from those 300 people. And what I should do right now from hearing you today is I need to suck it up, take 7 days to pull up those addresses when they close and reach out and say, hey, listen, I sold you a house 9 years ago. I got to apologize to you. I've been busy with life and I dropped the ball and staying in touch with you. Do you have a few minutes to talk? If Brent and I would go to those 300 people and say, hey, what's going on in your life? My son's going to be joining me in real estate. Do you have 15 minutes just to catch up about life? How are you doing in your life? What's your goals? Here's what we've got going on. Are you open to staying in conversation? Those 300 deals, I would probably get next year. I'll bet you 10 referrals from there that I could literally hand off to him right now if he's going to help me go back and suck it up to those people while we're still doing the open houses. Because I'm the hunter. I've always been just going for that next deal, and I've screwed up massively by not staying in touch with all those people. And even if my head, the devil's going, bullshit, Mike, you ain't going to get 30 referrals from 300. Well, if I got a third of that, if I got 10 referrals next year, dude, out here in Sacramento, that's a $10,000, that's $100,000 to just do exactly what you just told me to do right there. But the devil's screwing with me going, you can't do that. You ain't going to do that.
Absolutely. Is your son working with you, or are you in different markets? Oh, I lost you, I think. Oh, no, I think we lost you. Hey, Alex, shake your head if you can still hear me. Okay. Yeah, so I think we just lost Paul's connection there. Too bad. I'm going to let him come back in before we jump back into that, because that's pretty good stuff. That's pretty good feedback. So I'll give him a second. He's probably going to have to go out and come back in. Must have been an internet outage or something. But let me answer what he was talking about. And that is that you have so much value. Let me answer this part. If you've been in the business for any length of time, it's very highly likely that you've made that error, that you haven't been developing your list. That is not unusual. In fact, it's more typical that you've been hunting the whole time and you haven't been farming. You haven't been creating your list, not only for regular agents, but the top agents do that all the time too. I can't tell you how many I bumped into who that has happened with. I can think of one in particular. I think he went 8 years without putting together his list. And he's like, it was the dumbest thing I ever did because I was losing all that business. And then, of course, he and his wife put it together and boom, it started to pay off very quickly. And of course, it's now a big portion of their business. So if you're growing your business, yeah, you need to do some hunting. And if you're going to build a team, you have to do lead generation at a high level. You've got to pay for leads. In fact, you're probably going to be losing money as you're trying to create this larger team and system of business. But the key is not to skip that foundational step of building out your PCSOI, your list, and the reach outs that you do with that list. So anyway, that was a fun conversation. Hopefully, oh, there's Paul. I think he's trying to come back in. Try to continue to help him and his son. I hope this is a fun topic for everybody. So, hey, Paul, welcome back.
We got hard crashed out of there. That was the devil. That's the devil screwing with us, man. He's putting us down.
Paul, they don't want you to work your PCSOI.
He does not want us talking to Mike and Alex and Eileen and Marilyn. That's what the devil just messed us up.
He didn't want you to succeed, so or wanted you to struggle, work a little harder. All right, so good job. What I just mentioned why you guys had left and come back in was I agree with you. Most of the people that I talk to make the error of not building out their list. It's a huge error. I did it. A lot of the top agents I've talked to have done it. You're not alone there, Paul. So the key is, are you going to let it continue or are you going to change it? Are you going to take advantage of those in your case, 300 relationships that you built up already, or are you just going to let them go to somebody else? Here's the way to think about it if you're a competitive person. If you don't reach out to these people, they're going to reach out to someone who's not going to treat them well, right? That's a risk. That's a risk if they get in with one of these agents who's, there's not a lot of them in our industry, luckily. We usually weed them out, but There are some unscrupulous ones. There's some people that you don't want them to be dealing with. That really hurts me when I think about it. That's what forced me to start reaching out. I was like, if I don't reach out, they run this risk of something bad happening to them. Here's the other error that we make with this whole concept, and that is this. Paul says, hey, I helped these 300 people. I did a great job for them. They loved me. We got to the end of the closing. They were giving me a hug. They told me I was the best ever. And that's, by the way, typical, okay, because the National Association of Realtors did a survey a few years ago, which was very interesting and insightful in this area. Yeah, basically, they asked people who just bought or sold a home in the last year. They said, hey, how did they bought it with a realtor. And they said, hey, how did you like the transaction? And most people said it was great. And the next question they asked was, okay, what would you hire the agent that you just hired? Would you hire them again in the future? 84% said yes. 84% said they would hire that agent again. So we are doing a really good job when we're in the trenches with people, helping them out. The follow-up question was a simple one. They just said, okay, please name your agent. Well, what's the name of your agent? It only been within 12 months, within 1 year. What percentage of the people could name their agent?
20?
You're optimistic. 11%.
You're making me feel better right now. I feel better.
Only 1 in 10 of the people who had just worked with an agent within the last 12 months could name their agent. And that makes us cringe when we're the real estate agent, right? But name the guy or gal who sold you a car. Who sold you your last car? Most people can't give you their name, but that was a very important deal to that salesperson, right? This happens all the time. The problem is not the client. The client's job is not to remember us. Our job is to stay in front of them, right? Our job is to make sure that they continue to remember the good relationship that we have, to ask us when they need help with finding contractors or working on their house or whatever they need to do, anything in business. Maybe they need our help to get a referral for their business. We need to stay in touch with them, and it's our job to be there and do those reach outs. And so that's why we've got to create a formalized marketing plan to do the formalized reach out, because of the 11%. So only 10% of your people, only 1 in 10 are going to remember you and call. And here's what's going to happen. Just visualize it from their perspective. They bump into a friend who says, I need to buy or sell a home. And they go, do you know anybody? And the person says, oh yeah, they were really good. And I forget about it. I can't remember. Okay, that's probably what happens. Either they say it or they think it, and that's the end of it. Whereas if you were top of mind, they go, oh yeah, Paul Rogers was phenomenal. Oh, you got to call Paul. Let me get you his phone number. Okay, oh, you're going to love Paul, right? That's what we want to have happen, but it won't happen if you're not putting yourself in front of them all the time. And by the way, you do it through different mediums. You're not going to be overbearing, but you need to be there. And because here's the other problem. We don't know what day that our past client is going to wake up and say, today's the day I got to move. We don't know what day that is. If we knew that day, the day before, we would send out some marketing. Or in fact, that day we'd call them up or knock on their door. I mean, boy, it would be awesome if we had that crystal ball. But because we don't, we got to cover our bases and be in front of them as much as possible. Probably, like the Red Book, the old Red Book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is a great tome. By the way, when they wrote that book, I remember, I'm like, I already know all this stuff in the book because it was all information that was out there. But the nice thing about the book is it brought it all into one place. So you should read that book. Its idea was you should have 33 touches. Where'd they get that? They went and asked the top agents, what are you doing? And they were contacting about 3 times a month. Just remember, they're coming through different mediums. They're doing some direct mail, some email, some phone calls, inviting to events. They're doing all kinds of things, social media now, all these things to surround them with your name, popping up in their world every once in a while. Because remember, everybody has a top 3 list in their head for everything. You got a top 3 list for cars that you like. You got a top 3 list for soft drinks that you like to drink. Okay. You got a top 3 list for restaurants you like to eat at. You got a top 3 list of meals you like to eat. You got a top 3 list for everything in your head. And your goal is to be in that top 3 list of the head of the person that you helped, preferably number 1. Okay. But you got to stay on that list because there's just too much going on. Does that help a little bit?
Oh, that's outstanding. That's exactly what we needed to hear today. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Cool. Now, how you go about it, that's a whole nother process, of course. Okay. And there's a lot of training out there because people have known about it. Let me give you the other challenge. Because everybody knows repeat and referral is so good, you hear about it all the time and we become numb to it, right? It's probably one of the first things you heard when you got into business, like Brent's hearing about it from me now, or probably others. Paul, you heard about it when you got into business way back. Somebody told you about it, probably your broker, and you heard it so many times. You're like, but, and you kind of just put it in the back and let it go. And so every time you hear it, you kind of squish it down and, I'll get to that someday, or why do I need to do that? I'm doing my hunting thing. So you got to resist that and the people that you care about to make sure that they get on track early with this. Where you can learn the information, though, are all these same sources. You can go to your broker and ask them if they have programs. You can go out there and read books on the topic. You can join programs, coaching programs, things like that. We just had a program that came out called RAMS, where I specifically put it together to try to make it easy for someone to actually do a how-to, a step-by-step, and jump right in. You got Brian Buffini, who's been doing this for a long time. If you like Mike Ferry and you go out there prospecting, he's got a whole program on it, how to go out after your SOI. Just because everybody knows this is where it's at. And you got to find what's comfortable and easy for you and your approach to make it happen. But the key is this: make the list, then make an annual marketing plan, and then execute it. That's it. Once you get it going, it's going to mainly run in the background. That's the way we tried to set up RAM, so it run in the background. But whatever it is, you got to set it up. If you don't take that time to do it, it's never going to pay off. You're never going to get your 5, 10, or 20%. Okay. And again, I know a lot of these top agents that are around the 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23%. Excuse me. Like the gal who sold 162 homes solo in 1 year, she is up at 23%. Okay, on what I call referral productivity percentage, RPP. The highest I ever had, by the way, was somebody who had a 34%, which is crazy high. I've never met anybody else that did that. And it was big numbers. The guy had a list of 300 and he closed 103 transactions off that list in 1 year, all repeat and referral. These things can get very powerful. I keep saying these things and mentioning this because people say, oh, it's small potatoes, it's only going to be a couple deals. Like, Paul, would you tell me 3 deals a year, maybe out of it, the list? So people think it's small. It is if you don't work it, okay? But if you put together a formal plan, it can be big. It can be very big. Anyway, that's why I highly recommend it being your number one focus, your foundational rock. And then you're going to get caught in the shiny object syndrome as a new agent, right? You're going to hear about somebody who got these free leads from YouTube or free leads from Zillow or some crazy new program that they blasted out on social media and something wild happened and they got a closing, or a lot of times it's just they got a lead. But these are all interesting, and I call them shiny objects. I didn't coin that. That was a Mike Ferry term way back. It basically distracts you from your focus and what you should be doing. If I were young and hungry, the other thing I would be doing is prospecting. So open houses are qualified as a group of prospecting. That's where people are coming to you, though, and you don't have as much control. So if you're going to do that kind of thing, do like a mega open house where you get a lot of people to come through at once, so you get more opportunities. If you're going to do other prospecting or outbound, where you're going out and meeting people. So FSBOs expireds are a great source for listings. Going out and knocking on doors is a fantastic way to get business going. That's what I did. And then you could also knock on renters' doors. If you're not comfortable with sellers yet, go ahead and knock on apartment doors.
Mike, what would be your two scripts? Take it that Brent knocked on let's call it an apartment door or a rental house. That'd be one conversation. And talk to us about if you're just walking near open houses, there's other regular houses. How would you talk to a potential seller? What do you say to them?
Sure. Let me give you Brent, let me just give you the basics. Okay. Scripts, by the way, we can teach you all kinds of scripts and fancy words to say. But here's, if you go in with this one idea, it's all going to work simple. Okay. And that is be concerned about the other person and ask a lot of questions. You're trying to find out what their goals and objectives are. And then you're trying to find out if you can help them achieve that. Right. So if you just go in with that attitude, everything is going to flow well. And notice the whole idea is, how can I help this person achieve what they want to do? If you go in with that attitude, I'm telling you, it's all going to play out. The words coming out of your mouth are going to work right. The questions you ask are going to work right. You stay in curiosity. That'd be the other big picture idea is, what are you trying to do? When are you trying to get there? How do you plan on achieving this? What will this do for you? If you can find out what their big picture is, and you can see how to help them get there, and then they're going to see how you can help them get there. So with that in mind, let's go back to our apartment building, right? Knock on the door. You say, hi, my name is Brent, and I'm with ABC Realty. And I just like to let you know that I'm walking through the neighborhood. I'm meeting people who are renting, and I'm trying to meet people who are interested in owning their own home. Have you ever considered owning your own home?
No, I haven't.
Oh, hey, no.
Actually, I have. I have thought about owning my own home, but I hear prices are high, and I don't know if my credit's good enough. I would like to own my own home at some point in time.
Very good. How long have you been in this home?
I've been in this apartment for 9 years.
You've been here for 9 years. Oh my goodness. Okay. And how much are you paying for rent?
$2,200 a month, and it goes up about $100 each year.
I bet it does. Well, you're able to paint the walls any color you want, right?
Not really.
Right. Have you ever thought about that, getting into a home of your own so you could do whatever you want with the walls?
I would like to get into a home at some point in time, yes.
Oh, fantastic. And have you tried to do that before?
No, I really haven't.
Oh, very good. Well, would you be interested in me showing you how easy it is to get into a home of your own? For instance, what's been holding you back?
I really don't know if I could afford the down payment, or I don't really understand the process. I've just been busy working and just living.
Oh, you're doing a great job. I'm going to step back for a minute. So usually the biggest problem for a renter is the down payment and the monthly payment, right? It's like when you buy a car. It's the same thing. It's just a bigger purchase. So you're going to want to go there, and you can address that. You can start talking about, well, did you know, Paul, that there are programs out there where you can buy homes with very little down, as little as like 3%, 6%, 5%. In fact, sometimes you can do it with no money down at all. Would you be interested in learning about some of those programs?
For sure I would, yeah.
We need to talk more, don't you think?
I'm pretty busy right now, though, but maybe, yeah, but I'm busy.
I understand. If you're too busy to own your own home, I get it. But if you want to learn about buying a home, I'd be happy to help you. Do you want me to get you in touch with some people that can help you find out about those no down payment programs?
Yeah, I'd be open to a phone call or a Zoom.
Okay, fantastic. What's your phone number? What's your email address? Okay, and are you here at, and I get your address, boom, boom, boom. Do you mind if I keep in touch with you and maybe send you a list of properties that you can buy that are first-time homebuyer houses and condos and townhomes and other properties that could qualify for you? Would you like to see that list?
Yeah, I'd be open to that, but my lease isn't up for about another 6 months.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Well, that gives plenty of time to get this all set up for you. We can't wait until the end of your lease, because if we do, then you're going to just be renewing for another year, right? Don't you think we should be starting now?
I'm coachable. I'd listen to you.
Okay, fantastic. And you're just going to go from there. The whole objective at that point is, as Paul was bringing up and helping me out, is you're going to try to find out what their timing is. That would be the next thing. And you're going to try to set up an appointment to meet with them. As a new person, Brent, you're going to want to meet with as many people as possible, even if they are lower quality leads. As you get more and more skilled at this, you're going to narrow your list down to people who are moving, say, within the next 30, 60, 90 days. But initially, You should be meeting with all kinds of people so you're getting used to it. You're talking to them. You're working through your scripts. You've got your list of questions that you've developed over time. I'm trying to think. Michael Hellickson is a great example of that. This guy is a guy who ended up selling like 1,000 homes a year in his own practice. Okay, he was a phenomenal guy. He now does coaching and training. But his idea was really great in the early days. He would go out and meet with anybody who even hinted that they wanted to sell their home. And we were all like, why wouldn't you qualify this person down to like needing to sell right away? I mean, how are you risking that much loss of time? And his answer was, look, every time I go out there, I'm learning something new. I'm modifying my listing presentation. I'm changing my scripts. I'm seeing what's working. I'm seeing what's not. And he used to have it all written out. He would use a red marker to make the changes, and he'd bring it back and have his assistant retype it up for his presentation and his scripts for, again, what worked and what didn't work. So he was constantly modifying and updating his approach with folks to make sure that he was giving the best presentation possible. So that was buyers. Okay. If you're going to go, another buyer source you were talking about was open houses. All right. If you're going to go into an open house, and by the way, let me just say one thing real fast before I go down that track. All of these outside sources that are not your PCSOI, you need to have an attitude. And the attitude is this: I'm going to go do the hunting. I'm going to pull people in because I want to turn them into a past client. I'm always building up my PCSOI list. It's where I spend the majority of my time and effort. But if I'm not getting enough business out of that right now, I'm going to go out and find more people from other sources that I can add in and create more past clients, because I know that person's going to end up repeating, referring, and creating this machine for me to live off down the line. Does that make sense? I just want to point that out before we go in all these outside sources and why we're even talking about it on this type of call. But you've got open houses. In that case, it's the exact same script, right? Where the same concept of what do you think of this home? You know, well, do you let them walk through, Paul, or do you walk with them?
95% of the open houses I've ever done have been for other listing agents, all kinds of companies on vacant houses. I like to be near good traffic centers. I've got yellow and black open house signs. Says on the bottom, free list of homes available. I'll put 20 of those out. They come in, I sit there with a portable table and chair. They walk in, I say, hey, Paul Rogers, real estate agent, you looking to buy, sell, invest, or you just duncing around? They say what they're gonna say. I say, I'll get you checked in. Are you working with an agent? No, you're not. Great, it's gonna be Paul Rogers, high five. And then I get their name, phone number, email, and then BS with them about life. And then I say, this is about 3 minutes is what this takes. And I've got another clipboard that says comments. I say, take a walk through, let me know things that you like and things that you would change. I want to share that feedback with the owner. You're not going to hurt our feelings. And then I let them do their thing and walk through. And when they come back, I just really try to talk about life with them. In 14 years of holding open houses every weekend, there's been 2 houses in 14 years that I actually met somebody at the house and sold them that house. It doesn't happen. But I got 3,000 people in the database that I'm not very good at following up with, but I've still done 300 sales.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And you've got a nice approach. If you want to learn any more about a good approach, I'm just so bad with names. I can picture faces so easily. You want to look at, what's the guy's name? Hold on a minute. I'm sorry. I got to look this up because I just blow it all the time. I can.
Hey, can everybody else chime in real quick and just let me know what city you're in and how long you've been in real estate? Brent and I are curious. Like Eileen and Jay and Alex, what city are you guys in? How long you been in real estate?
Been a full-time realtor for the last 2 years, 4 years in the business. I'm in San Jose, California, Bay Area per se.
Very nice.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Eileen. I have been in the business 4 years, but I've actually helped my family pretty much all my life. My parents had rentals, and so I was always helping them. I worked in title and escrow for 10 years. So I've had a very windy road with real estate, but yeah, I'm licensed wide for almost 5 years.
Where are you located?
Pleasanton, California.
Okay. California, gotcha. What are you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm Alex Monzo. I'm right now I live in San Bernardino, but I cover Southern California. I've been in the business this is my third year. Yeah, this is my second career and just getting things and just I guess I'm on the right track because just listening to the conversation today, that's been my focus, right? I was in a business I was starting my 30th year. So I have a lot of contacts, had a lot of new hires, had a lot of people who were fresh out of college. So, they were with me for a long time. They moved on to bigger and better things, but we were steady in contact. So that's kind of my sphere, right? That's my professional sphere and then my family sphere. And so
where are you located, Paul? Paul, where are you located?
I'm in Sacramento, California, specifically Roseville, California.
Oh, nice. I know the area. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I've of late been just focusing more on expired and for sale by owner kind of opportunities as well, because we get good numbers out there. So I had some luck with a couple of expired and for sale by owner listing as well. But trying to develop script and getting in front of those guys is always challenging.
Yeah. My son, Brent, lives in St. Louis, where I grew up. He got laid off from his job about 2 weeks ago. And I said, dude, I'm buying you a flight. I'm flying you out yesterday. He's flying back to St. Louis tomorrow. I said, we're just going to have a heart-to-heart about whether you go back corporate or whether you go corporate and part-time real estate, or you go real estate for 1 year and just live on the skinny for the next year. We haven't decided which way he's going. But when I saw Mike's call, I was like, this is the perfect call that we need to be on. So he doesn't just hear it from dad. He hears it from all of you guys then too. In the corporate world, I told him right now, I said, if I offered you a job at 80 grand today, you start in 2 weeks, would you take it? He said he'd go real estate still. I don't know. I think I'd have to take the 80 grand job and layer in real estate part-time myself. I don't know.
It's more of the mindset, right? I mean, it's as business owner, you're going to be out there. I mean, nothing beats that feeling. Yes, you are starting. What you're comfortable with is his choice. Is he the gentleman sitting behind you? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What advice would you give him if he was your nephew or your son? What advice would you give him?
I mean, you got to jump in all feet. It's like, learning to go swimming or biking, just kind of, you can watch videos, you can kind of keep training, listening. You don't learn unless until you jump in. And he has such a big legacy. He has you to fall back on as well, for advice. So it's a great position he's in.
I got to believe, quite honestly, guys, and I appreciate everybody's time here. If him and I teamed up and he got his California license living in St. Louis, and I had him calling through my 300 past clients, him and I, it takes us, 2 weeks to get through that. And then I take time next week and go get 300 pumpkins and go drop them off at all the houses with my card, saying my son's getting into business. Here, we're having a pumpkin contest. Send your picture of your carved pumpkin or painted pumpkin in. And then we're following up with those in November. We do a pie to all 300 people but it's really him and I calling these people, just having a conversation about life. In December, we just send out a holiday card. Each month, we just did something. I got to believe, talking to Mike here and all you guys, out of 300 past clients, there's got to be 5 deals sitting there at $15,000 a deal. There's $75,000, 25 to Uncle Sam. I don't really need the money. Give him the 50. That gets him through that first year of what he would make at corporate.
So absolutely. That kind of, you can chime in on the other topic. I was wondering, we can discuss best practices with database. Mike, I'm eager to listen your take on database development.
All right, cool. Thank you for the input, Jay. Hey, Paul, that's a good job there you just did.
Now implementing it.
I like your new plan there. And thank you for talking to everyone in the group. You did way better than I did. That was excellent. All right, so Brent, let's do this. What are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking I need to avoid the corporate sphere, because I think if I revert back into that world, it provides a bit of a crutch for me to be not as aggressive or not as active in pursuing my, my desire to be my own business owner.
And we talked with somebody yesterday about what's Brent's why Why, what does he want in life? What's his why? And I think like a lot of people, he struggles. He really doesn't know what his why is. My why
I can guess on some whys. Brent, I assume you want to fund your family, right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's a why, right? You've got X number of bills you got to cover every month, right? Have you figured that out? Do you know what your nut is? I call it the nut or the break even.
we talked about that. His bills are about $5,000 a month.
Hold on, Paul. Hold on, Paul. You're overbearing, my friend. Brent, I'm talking to Brent.
It's about $5,000 a month, and we think we could trim that back in the next 6 months to about $4,500.
Okay, good. So you're going to try to figure out how you can reduce it. By the way, there's only so much you can reduce your monthly budget, but you should always be keeping an eye on it because we often waste a lot of money that we could be using for maybe growing our business, right? Or buying another month would be another way to think about it. So you're basically, let's say it's a 5K cover. What's your average commission in your market?
If we did California, which is what we do,
15 there, right?
it's going to be $15,000 out here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, Brent. Are you going to be trying to sell real estate in California? Or are you going to be trying to sell real estate in Missouri?
I think initially California, and then we'll probably piggyback that so I have the ability in my backyard as well.
So you're gonna basically figure out what your parents have already established. You're going to go into a mentorship program with them. They're either going to pay you a salary or a percentage of the commission to get you going. Is that the picture that we're hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you can teach him about open houses, but he's not going to be there. Do you have other things you can teach him, Paul, like how to prospect for expired SPSBOs, other things that he could do long distance?
Biggest mistake that I've made, guys, everybody on this call is my follow-up. I can lead generate at the open house all day long. Where I drop the ball, the devil screws with me. I'll have 20 people come through. I grade them 1 through 5. 5 being somebody I had a good conversation with. Maybe they're interested in buying, selling. I don't care if it's today, 6 months, a year, or 2 years. But when I get done with that open house, I bring those 20 leads home. I scan them. I've got a virtual assistant in the Philippines. Send them to him. He puts them in my database. I use KV Core because I'm with DXP. I don't know what kind of drip systems they're on in there. And I should follow up with the 3, 4s, and 5s the next day, Monday or Tuesday. Honestly, guys, we're 10 months into this year. I don't honestly think I've made 3 hours of calls this year. That's where I'm dropping the ball. I think at the opens now, Brent can be following up with those people because at the open, I'm going to say, hey, I work with my son. He just got out of corporate America. You say you work for Anheuser-Busch. Would you be open to talk to my son? He's going to follow up with you. Tell him why he shouldn't go back to corporate and why real estate's a great thing. I think all those people would love to talk to a 35-year-old kid to talk about life. And that gets us in a better conversation. For some reason, my limiting beliefs have had me not following up with those people for 14 years.
Yeah.
How much business I passed up in 14 years. So I think him getting his California license, following up with my open house people, calling through the 300 past clients, calling through the 3,000 people in the database. He's just having a conversation about life. I teamed up with my dad. Somebody raised their hand at that point to say, yeah, I want to talk about buying or selling a house. That's when I can step back into the picture.
All right, let's dive into that just a little bit because it's an interesting topic. First of all, I think that you're not alone. Most people do blow this with their follow-up with their leads. They cherry pick, okay? That's the problem that team leaders find out really fast is they'll generate 100 leads. Their agents will go through and pick the top 5 and the 95 go to waste. And we call that cherry picking. You're doing it in your own practice and you're letting the 95 go to waste. And the question is there any gold in the 95? First of all, if you only have a limited amount of time, it is the appropriate response. Take the cherry pick the best and work with them right away. However, secondarily, after you've done that, you should try to pick up those ones that were left behind because a lot of them are going to turn into business. And by the way, we're not talking about repeat referrals here. We're talking about this extra funnel of people coming in to create past clients. And I want to keep emphasizing that you should be spending 80% of your time on PCSOI and only 20% of your time on these other activities. You can get caught up in the weeds over there. And Paul, you can attest, you can then let your PCSOI die. You're not doing anything with it. And you've left a massive dollar productivity activity to die. This pot of gold just it fizzes out. Okay, so let me ask a couple quick questions. I know we're running up on it, but I'm still very curious here. Paul, what is your DISC personality profile? DISC, do you know?
I'm high on the D side.
I can tell. Yep. Brett, what are you? Have you taken the DISC?
I've never taken the test, but I've heard about it in the last 2 days.
You need to take that test. You need to find out what you are, because it will help you decide what you're going to be best at in these roles with your dad. Okay. So, for instance, are you comfortable talking on the phone? He's been talking about all these things with you talking on the phone. Are you comfortable talking on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. In your roles in corporate America, what kind of roles were you handling? What were you doing?
Initially, it was like first entry level customer support, inbound phone calls, inbound tickets. And then I slowly progressed my way up to more project management, higher echelon IT troubleshooting. So the communication with external clients via phone declined as my time has gone on the last 10 years in the IT space, but it's kind of where I started.
And I would say
you were fielding inbound phone calls, right?
Yes.
And you were handling that. Okay. Were you making any outbound phone calls?
Yes.
Okay. So then it may work for you. Let me just say this and get it out there. The hardest thing to do in real estate is lead conversion. The hardest thing to do in real estate is lead conversion. Okay. That's basically taking a raw lead and turning it into an appointment. Okay. Wherever the source was, whatever the source was, whether it was an open house, whether it was calling a FSBO expired, where it was you bought a list of leads, whatever the source was, doesn't matter. It's a person on the other end. Remember that. So however the person got there, calling them up, qualifying them, finding out what their needs and desires are, and turning that into appointment. That is the hardest phase of real estate. It's not driving people around. It's not even listing their houses. It's not negotiating. It's not going to closing. That all could be handled by other people very well. The hardest thing is conversion of the lead. Okay. And so in our real estate speak, we talk about an ISA, or an inside sales agent. Okay. And that used to be in the old days called a telemarketer or an appointment setter. It's the same role. This idea of either if you're a solo, you got to do it yourself. If you're a team, you're going to put someone in this capacity. And it's going to be this conversion from lead to appointment, either with a buyer or a seller, depending on what their needs are. Craig Proctor was the #1 real estate agent in the world back in the early 2000s. He's in Canada. He did it twice, 300 and 400 sales at the time. He was #1 for Remax, by the way, #1 for Remax worldwide. And it was interesting to watch him building out a team, because the last thing that he let go of, the thing that he held on for the longest time, was this lead conversion, because he said it was the hardest thing to teach somebody. If you have the natural skill to do that, to call up the leads, nurture them, and convert them into an appointment, not only would you be valuable to your father and he's going to pay you well, even if he were to get out of real estate, or you could go into any industry and do this, not just real estate, but any industry, and have that ability to set those appointments and make $1 bajillion, because it's, again, the hardest thing to do. My son is able to do that. He's actually working with a home builder and doing those lead conversions, because if you have that skill, it's extremely valuable. If you don't, I get it. But if you have it, ooh, man, it's pretty cool. So find out what your DISC is. Find out if you can do that lead conversion with your dad. Start calling through his old leads and trying to set appointments. He'll give you some scripts, so you can pick up scripts elsewhere. Go through his old open house leads, and also work through his PCSOI list. If that's your arrangement, that's phenomenal. And again, not just with your dad, but with any team, you get good at that, you can charge big dollars. Those people make high six figures. They do very well in that industry. And then I say high six, like 100 to 200K a year when they're doing really well. Some make as high as 250, just because it's so hard to do. Does that help?
very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so find out what your DISC profile is. Usually that, interestingly enough, they've changed over the years, because they've been trying to do this for 30 years that I've been in it. The DISC that works well in that role, everybody thought it was going to be an I. Okay, you'll learn all this as you're learning about DISC. Everybody thought it was going to be an I. It turns out it's a C with some D. which kind of sounds like your personality to me, because you're working in project management, which is looking at systems, but you also have a little bit of drive, maybe. Okay, you probably picked some up from your dad, I'm guessing. All right. And so that's that CD role. If you're in there, you're going to have a high probability of being successful in this role. And it could be very exciting, lucrative, and a great way to start. And even if you branch out on your own, it's something you're going to have to do to be able to turn these leads into appointments. Okay. And by the way, everybody wants to automate this, and you can do automation to help with this. But the bottom line is you have to talk. You have to have a conversation with someone to convert them from wherever they are into an appointment. Okay. And that's a human being. And that's why they get paid well for doing this. They haven't figured out how to make an AI pull this off.
Mike, real quickly, with
Yeah.
us going into a shifting market,
Yeah.
a lot of people would say, Brent, you're nuts to getting into real estate right now.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Love it. Number one, it is difficult. It's always difficult to get in our industry. There's always an 80% failure rate the first year. Always, no matter how hot the market is or how cold the market is or whatever. People just burn out of this business. And by the way, if you make it past the first year, the next 5 years, another 80% falls out. And if you go from 5 to 10, another 80% of those people fall out. So it's a continuous fallout. It's really hard to stay in this business. But if you get it, it's very lucrative. That's why people hang in there. Okay. If you can figure out your formula, you do very well. It's like a restaurant business, 98% failure. It's even worse than real estate. But the 2% that succeed, they can do very, very well. Same thing here. You're running your own show. If of the people I've ever talked to, the ones that have been very successful in the hot markets are the ones that got in during a down market or downturn and figured out how to fight and struggle and make things work. It all comes down to your mind. You're going to see a lot of people, as I said, flowing out, talking negatively, being distracted. Oh, it's not as easy as it used to be. They're going to romanticize the old days. They're going to say, oh, 2 years ago was so awesome. Oh my God, it was so fun working 2 years ago. And they forgot that they were working with a buyer and 19 other buyers showed up and they had to do all these crazy negotiations and their buyer had to give up all their inspection clauses and appraisal clauses. And, and they were spending 7 times more with a buyer than they used to as far as their time involvement. They're going to romanticize all that. Okay. So you got to just ignore a lot of the things you hear and just focus on the goal. Talk to people and help the people. Okay. If you do that, it's all going to work out. Final thing there, people buy and sell homes in all markets because they do things for other reasons than interest rates. Interest rates does affect our market. It absolutely does. But you've got to, but even with interest rates, when they were at 18% and 21%, people were still buying and selling homes. When I got in the business, it was 10%. The majority of my career, it was between 7 and 9. In 1 month, it went from 7 to 9. It jumped up 2 points and knocked out a lot of buyers and what their purchasing power was. That's okay. We still bought and sold a lot of homes because people buy homes for their own reasons. They buy it for their own needs. I talked earlier, I joked about painting the walls any color you want. That's why a renter would want to move out, right? Have a dog and have a place for the kids to play and be able to do their hobby in the garage or the basement. There's reasons other than making money in real estate, or your personal home is not an investment. That's another error people make. It may grow in value or it may not grow in value. They're doing it because they want their own space. And when you start to recognize those factors, it makes it a lot easier to work with folks. Does that help a little bit?
Mike, where do you live at? Where are you based out of?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful Denver. Well, Brent, this has been a fun call. I thank you for joining with your father, Paul, and getting us focused on this topic. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. I'm going to look at the notes real quick. We've gone over a little bit. I appreciate that everybody's here, but let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Jay said, hey, please talk about database referrals, database do's and don'ts. How do I nurture and develop my database for future referrals? It's a great point there, Jay. And what you basically do is you need to set up an annual marketing plan. Okay. So you're going to set up a plan where you're basically January, February, March, April, May, all throughout the year. Excuse me. You're going to set up how you want to reach out to these people. We'll have to do it, I guess, on the next call. Maybe join me next week and ask the question right at the beginning. We'll jump right in, Jay. And we'll go ahead and show you all the factors of what you want to build out on that. But that's what it is. You just create it, The top agents do it right now, or we're coming into now, November and December. They set up their annual marketing plan for the next 12 months, for the full year. And they're going to do certain types of reach outs and contacts and try to match it with your personality base. So it's very natural for you. Some people, it's easy to get on the phone. Some people, it's not. Some people are going to text or email. Some people are going to send hard mail. They're going to work that in. Some people will send social media contacts. There's all kinds of ways to get in front of people. Your key is to stay in front of them, have your face front and center and your name, and connect it to real estate in their mind, top of mind. Okay, that's the key. If you do that, you're going to have a lot of success, especially if you do it consistently. When you get into the weeds, it comes down to making sure that you're presenting yourself professionally. You're making a light offer. These are not heavy offer marketing pieces, but they are a light offer to make sure people know you're available to do what a seller wants. Seller wants to know the value of their home if they're thinking about selling, and a buyer wants to know a list of or see a list of properties. That's what they want. It's been the same for the 3 decades I've been around. And if you were to talk to someone 200 years ago, it's probably the same thing. Right? It's continuous. If the only difference is the medium that we present that information in, like we had this social media thing that's come up that now we can contact and touch base through people through Facebook and Instagram, and these other things that weren't around before, but it's still the same message because humans are still the same people. All right, I hope that helps a little bit. Again, I had to kind of rush through that. I'm sorry, but if you want, Jay, come back in at the beginning of our next call, get on right away and ask me. There's usually not a lot of people at the beginning, right, Paul? It was just you and me, and Paul just jumped in and said, this is what I want to talk about. I'm like, we're doing it. All right, so come in early if you have a topic you want to jump into.
I appreciate it.
Eileen says, I'm an IC on the DISC assessment. That is hard for me. Yeah, let's see. So let me think of DISC. Yeah, you're a whack job. I say that because you're at the opposite ends, okay? So those are opposites, and opposites repel. And by the way, you're not the only person I've talked to who's had this situation going on, but you're basically, your I is outgoing, wants to go out and meet people. Your C is completely reserved, okay? Your I hates paperwork, your C loves paperwork. So if you're truly an IC, you're getting split. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so if it is true that you're on that continuum, again, it's kind of rare, but if you are, then you have to figure out ways to handle that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I know. I deal with it every day.
How do you handle the fact that you're getting pulled along that continuum, one to being very outgoing, the other being reserved, one to being very creative, and the other being very system oriented?
It is a lot. I mean, I think I kind of attribute it, everyone always jokingly says, I've got adult ADHD, but I do think everyone has a bit of that in reality, and it's not anything bad.
No,
but
we're all a little bit of everything on the disc, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
you got to look at your scores though to see if they're extreme or if they're limited. If it's a low, high on each of those, you're probably fine. If it's real extreme, it's going to be very hard. Oh
yeah, no doubt. I mean, I have my systems of how I do things. I mean, I was rookie of the year, my very first year in real estate, and I've done pretty good ever since. But it's always a constant battle I think there's a little bit like that for perfectionism in there is also a hard thing to deal with. That's your C. Yeah, that you have to let go of. And I think it's also a control issue, because I feel if I don't have control over the perfectionism, then I truly do live on the opposite end in total chaos. So it is, this. I got an idea for you. Again, you probably are already doing some of this. Just make sure that throughout your day, you're mixing in a little bit of each. You're satisfying a little bit of each personality. So what I mean by that is, in the very beginning of the day, you may have it very structured, okay, for the first hour or two, or even the full morning. And then the afternoon, it's completely wild and chaotic and do whatever you want. There you go. Yeah, so you got a little checklist you run through in the morning. Yes, that's smart.
So, but remember to let your eye have some fun in the afternoon, right? Talk to
Yeah.
people, be creative, throw together some marketing, do something fun out there, because otherwise it'll get squished and then it's going to bust out and want to be around all the time, right? So, if you can structure your day to adjust, incorporate both of those, you're probably going to be happier.
Eileen,
Yeah.
how many deals have you done this year? How many have you closed?
This year, I haven't had many. I've only had 4.
Close and you're full time?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how many do you want to close next year? A real number?
Like I struggle with this because I don't want overwhelm. I mean, I think that everyone's ideal, well, not everyone's, my ideal truly would be 1 a month. So you have 12 a year. I could do that because it is just me. I'm not a team.
Why didn't you close 12 this year so far? What's the number one reason you haven't closed 12 this year?
I think it has to do with my marketing and getting people into my pipeline and I've been doing a lot better in these last couple of months in terms of reaching out, social media. I did lifestyle photos so that my photos are better in my listing presentation and in my emails and truth be told, I mean, I have, I'm a wife and I've got kids and we have a small little family online business, that we run. So I'm kind of torn between both of those. So it's not.
How old are your kids?
They're 17 and 20, but they still live at home and I'm, one's a senior in high school. So I'm still dealing with, the school routine and keeping track of all my kids. Not keeping track of them, but I mean, I'm still in the trenches. One in college, one in high school, dealing with college applications. I'm not, my kids aren't launched and gone and I have all the time in the world. Like I'm very, very structured in my day in what I have to do. I get up at 5 just so I can go for my walk and get all that done so that I can get my to-do list done. I mean, I'm doing things, literally work things from like 6 a.m. on.
Sounds like you're getting ready to get ready.
No, because I'm actually getting a heck of a lot done. I follow up on leads constantly and try and make appointments and work on making appointments.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Eileen, let me give you one little piece of advice. If you want to hit that 12, first of all, have you created your formalized PCSOI list?
My sphere of influence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have a formalized list? And are you creating do you have a formal marketing plan that goes out to them?
Yeah, actually, I have been working on that for the past couple of months. My company has been very, very big on teaching us how to do like basically 1 a day so that you tighten up your severe 1 person a day. And, that really gets a lot done. So, and I do have marketing set for them.
Let me help you with one final idea there that may work. And that is this: focus on one number to just simplify this whole business. Okay. Just focus on one number, and that is conversations per day. Just start tracking how many conversations you have with somebody who could buy or sell real estate, the actual conversation, and just have a little list and do a little hash mark. How many people did you talk to that day? It might be 1, 2, 0, whatever it is. But if you can average at least 1 to 2 people a day, you're going to hit your 12 closings for the year.
Mike, are you saying those are people that are thinking about buying or selling, or is that just a general conversation with anybody in life?
It's a good question. So this business, remember, is a relationship-based business. If you have somebody in your PCSOI, okay, and by the way, they have to pass the SOI test, which I didn't mention yet today, but if you've got someone in your PCSOI who's a legitimate PCSOI, they're a legitimate past client, they're a legitimate sphere of influence, And by the way, what that means is that you would recognize each other in the grocery store. Okay, you would know each other's faces, you would know each other's names, you could strike up a conversation. If they're true SOI, then your reach out could be with them to talk about anything. You can talk about your PCSOI about anything. It doesn't have to be real estate. Real estate will come up because they know you and they know what you do. Does that make sense? All right. So in that category, you just go through your PCSOI list, one conversation a day, boom, you're going to be floating in business. Everything's going to be fine. But a true conversation, not one way. It's not a reach out. It's a conversation back and forth. Okay, so that's the qualifier. If you do that, you're going to be in great shape. Now, if you're talking about the general public, now we're talking about it has to initiate a conversation about real estate. Okay, buy or sell. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying one conversation a day with 365 people in a year that either are past clients or they're in your sphere of influence. If you have one just life conversation a day with those people in that year's time, you're going to get business.
Yeah, because think about it. You've got 20 contacts per month, because we're going to assume you're working 5 days a week. All right, that's 240, not contacts, conversations. It's 240 conversations per year. How are you not going to find business there? Okay. You see what I'm saying?
But you're not ramming it down their throat. You're not ramming it down their throat that I'm here for business. It's just about life.
And that's very important for a C to know, right? A C or a CS in particular to know. They don't have to be hardcore conversations. They can just be friendly, fun conversations talking about the world, because what's going to come up in those friendly conversations. So Eileen calls her friend Stan. And she says, Stan, how you doing? I just want to touch base with you, see how things are going. So they start chatting. And Eileen keeps asking questions. Stan, how's your business doing? Or how's your wife doing? How's your whatever? And all of a sudden, pretty soon, Stan's going to revert back and say, Eileen, how are you doing? And Eileen's going to say, great. I just helped a buyer do this. I just helped the seller do that. Or even better, typically Stan's going to say something like, how's the real estate market? All right, that opens up the conversation. And then Eileen can say, well, why are you asking about the real estate market? Are you thinking about making a move this year? All right, and boom, now you're off to the races in the conversation. Stan says, oh, I am, or no, my sister is, or my cousin was thinking about it, or a friend at work was, and I was just wondering, whatever. Things are going to pop up because remember, that's a tight-knit group, your PCSOI. They already know a little bit about you. And that whole thing is conversations and relationship. The best one on that was Caleb Spears. We did an interview with Caleb Spears. He tripled his production in 1 year, went from 11 million to 34 million. And all he did was track conversations per day. That's all he did. And if you look at that interview, it's a video interview. He shows you his chart. He shows you all his spreadsheets. If you like to see stuff, he shows you all the analytics of how he got there. But it basically came down to focusing on one number, conversations per day. If you're real aggressive, make it 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, right? But remember, these are conversations, not reach outs. You might need to make 5 or 10 phone calls in order to get into one conversation. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
And that conversation, once again, is about life. It's not necessarily about real estate.
If it's your PCSOI, it is. Yep. If we're talking about a different group, though, like you're just cold calling expireds and FSBOs, well, you got to get right into real estate. Now we're tracking a different metric. Okay. It's a different group. It's a different purpose. Now, once that FSBO becomes a past client, boom, now they moved into the second group. And now we're just going to, hey, how you doing? How's business? How's life? As you already figured out, Paul, once a year, you said earlier, you can call up and say, hey, did you know that 7 years ago I helped you buy your home or sell your home? Right? That's a wonderful, easy conversation. It's our home anniversary today. Did you know that? Do you even know what that is? Let me tell you. And it's fun, right? Because they're your past client. Remember, if they're a past client, you spent this massive amount of time in 30, 60 days with them, getting to know each other. And they'll remember the emotional side of that. It's just that they forget your name. And so like me, I was struggling to pull up names of all kinds of people I've talked to. I'm just not a name person. I'm a face person. So by the way, the name I was trying to look up is Chris Suarez. Chris Suarez, Suarez. He is an open house king. He does $1 million a year just from open houses, GCI.
Suarez.
Yeah, let me pull that up. And we did interviews with him. You can find on Success Call and listen to. It's Suarez, Chris Suarez. You can find that in success calls. And if you're part of Real G, he went very in depth into what his open house system was, okay, and how he's generating those leads.
And you do these calls every week, Mike?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing for about 6 months. Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you. I greatly
You're
appreciate
welcome back
that.
to come back in. It was nice to, Brent, it was nice to meet you.
Hey,
And, and your sidekick there, your dad. It was
Yeah,
nice to meet
my
Paul.
teammate. You got to have good people in your corner.
It is. You're very lucky. You're very lucky. And, just pick his brain, your dad there.
Mike, how old is your son, Mike?
I've got a couple sons. My youngest son is 16. My oldest is 32.
Is that the 32 you're working for the builder?
Yes.
So what is he sitting in new construction and closing deals, or is he just
He's taking internet leads and he's converting them through conversation.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, just what we were talking about for you guys. He's doing cold leads. Well, they're slightly warm, but they're leads that are coming in that they have no relationship with, right? So that's the benefit, Brent. If you can talk to those PCSOI, they're going to be so much easier. Just make sure you refer to Paul multiple times at the beginning of the conversation. Go ahead, Eileen.
No, I was just looking at the time and I have to run.
Yes, I'm sorry I ran over. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to pick up my conversations per day. I have to do 5 right now, so I have to go. But thank you.
Mike. You did a great job, young man.
It was nice meeting you too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.